Well, this was a frustrating loss as a Buccaneers fan. I'm going full Buccaneers fan reaction here in this one. That's the main thing we're going to be talking about because this was a tough one. This was a frustrating one. I feel like I typically, as a whole, am much more in the camp of I don't panic, I don't overreact to concerns. If something goes wrong, something goes wrong. It's football. Things, bad losses happen. But man, this was a tough, bad loss. I mean, the reality is, if the Buccaneers won this game, it was inexcusable. If they got a stop there on that 3rd and 16, they marched down the field, get a game-winning field goal, this was an unexcusable game from them. That alone was not something they should have been in a position to do, not because the Steelers are terrible, they're so injured. The Steelers are missing their entire secondary and TJ Watt, their defensive player of the year. The offensive performance that the Buccaneers have put on is completely inexcusable, and there's no excuse for it. It's inexcusable. That's the main takeaway I have here. I just can't, there's several issues going on. The first issue is that the interior offensive line, those injuries have really, they've hurt the Buccaneers, for sure. There's no denying that. That's been something that they don't know how to handle that situation. To me, what I would say in that scenario is, okay, that's maybe, that's an issue, but you can still have a good offense with that issue. You have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin, you have Russell Gage, Cade Otton made a good catch in this one, and you have Tom Brady. Like, that alone, and Leonard Fournette's not a bad halfback. He's not being able to do much because we've seen what Leonard Fournette's the kind of guy where if he is in a good situation, he can make the most of it. But if he's in a bad situation, he's not going to look good. That's why in Jacksonville it didn't really work out because he didn't have a lot of holes to run through. And when he doesn't do that, then he looks very bad. Obviously, every running back, looks better when you have holes to run through. But he is more extreme in that scenario. So at least that's kind of what I think. But, I just think about just the overall box score. You're going to look at, Brady's passes versus the rushes and say, that feels about right for a ratio, about 25 rushes to 40 passes. That feels like, a decent ratio. And I guess it is, but it just felt like all of these 3rd down and ones running the ball constantly. I just don't know why we made that decision. I just don't know why they felt like that was the correct call, why we didn't, on any of these 3rd and shorts, just say, let's trust Mike Evans. The fact that they're struggling this much in the red zone, the fact that they're struggling this much on 3rd down and shorts is just something that should not be happening. And also, I'm sorry, Steelers fans, I'm not giving you your due. I'll do that at some point in the video. This is a Buccaneers definitely centric video, but it just feels like there's so much going wrong with the way that with the way things are going with the Buccaneers, and it just, you have to think the number one difference between this year and last year, offensive line and coaching. There is a new head coach in, and I do think that for all of Bruce Arians' faults, we are seeing the loss of Bruce Arians here. He didn't call plays last year, but the report was that Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich would come up with a game plan, and Bruce Arians would come in and change a bunch of stuff before the game, and that's what got people upset. I don't know how true that report is, but if that report is true, maybe there's a reason why Bruce Arians was doing this, because these game plans are not making any sense. The Steelers had no defensive backs. Why are you not taking advantage? Why are you not taking advantage of that? And I know some people are going to say, well, look at the scheme. Look at how many safeties they're playing deep. All of this stuff. Yes, you're the Buccaneers. There's going to be help deep. That's just what's going to happen. The way you've constructed this team of being a great passing attack with no real running depth whatsoever. Like, the running game is just non-existent. Teams are going to challenge you to run the ball as much as possible. It's your job as a smart football team to not buy into that and to still find ways to throw the ball down the field. That's how you're going to be successful, and they've really struggled at finding a way to do that. And it is just week 6, but being 3-3 here is just not. This was the game you had to win. I mean, first off, if you follow this channel, you know how big of a Mike Tomlin fan I am. They were incredible. The Steelers were incredibly well coached. everything that they could do, they managed to do. And of course, I mean, the magic of Mitchell Trubisky in that final drive. I don't understand what it is why Mitchell Trubisky turns into a superstar quarterback only against the Buccaneers. He had that 6 touchdown game against us when he was with the Bears. Now he has this one. Mitchell Trubisky just seemingly has our number. I don't know what it is, but those third down plays, I mean, part of me wants to be mad, like giving up a 3rd and 16 and a 3rd and 11 in the final drive to basically ice the game when you're only down 2. That was very frustrating, but it's also like, they were great plays. Like, the logic side of me kind of says, like, you got to just tip your cap to Pittsburgh. Like, Chase Claypool, especially that 3rd down and 11, it's like, okay, that's an incredible play. The one thing I would maybe say is the pass rush has to be better, but this pass rush is fluky. It's never going to be a great pass rush. I think it can be a good pass rush at times, but for the most part, it's hit or miss. So that's just kind of, again, the way you've constructed your team. I'm okay with that. One thing I would say, though, I heard the commentator say this a bit, where he said, Antoine Winfield and Levante David were the 2 guys on Claypool on those 2 catches. 2 fantastic players, 2 guys you'd want to have in that position. I was kind of thinking maybe a corner would be better, maybe an actual corner. I know Winfield kind of will play the slot corner sometimes, like maybe just like, I don't know, Carlton Davis I would have rather had in that situation covering him. But of course, Davis is covering, for most of that game, he was covering Pickens, and I actually thought Carlton Davis had a great game in this one. But that's kind of, part of me wondered that, but at the same time, I understand all of it. But man, just, again, the Steelers, you can never count the Steelers out. I don't care if their entire team is injured and they just have backups in, which is kind of what happened, right? I mean, basically their entire secondary is out. Their defensive player of the year is out. Their quarterback goes out in this one, still finding a way to win this game. I mean, it should have never happened. Like, the Buccaneers, they have to go back into the locker room and say, we have to completely rework all of this, because this is just, it's an inexcusable loss. And it's probably, in the Tom Brady era, I think this is probably the 2nd worst regular season loss they've had. I think the worst was the 38-3 Saints loss. But even the other, they've had some losses. They've had some bad losses that they should have won. Last year they got shut out by the Saints, but their entire receiving core was hurt. So it's like, okay, well, you had injuries. You can use that as an excuse. They lost to Washington last year, but it was like, Washington had a good game plan. They executed it well, and there was a couple of fluky plays that went against the Buccaneers. In this one, it really wasn't like, there was no pick 6 that caused this whole thing to go. There was a couple nice returns, but that's football. Special teams is part of football. Like, you can't just completely shrug that off. Like, the Steelers, had a good returner, and he was making good returns, and the Buccaneers have also struggled with that, with special teams in the, in the Tom Brady era at times. Ryan Succop didn't struggle. Kicking was great in this one. He deserves a lot of credit. He did everything he could do, but as a whole, it's a tough loss. The big thing you have to point to is the 4th and 14, which doesn't seem terrible. 4th and 14. Sorry, got ahead of myself with the words. The 4-14 on 3rd down efficiency, that's definitely a stat you're going to look at and say that's not great. Maybe it doesn't seem terrible, but when you factor in the fact that all those 3rd and shorts they had that they weren't able to convert, that's when it looks really bad. So got to convert on those 3rd downs, and the way you do it, trust your superstar quarterback. If Brady doesn't have it anymore, you're not winning the Super Bowl. So trust Brady, trust that he's going to be successful, put the ball in his hands, and if he can't connect with Mike Evans, I'd much rather prefer that than Leonard Fournette failing to get a yard, because right now he's failing to get a yard in those situations. Like, the offensive line, it just, what it is, so game plan accordingly. This is a coaching loss. Also, Brady missed some throws as well. Brady did not have his best game. I think that's fair to say. He made some good throws too, but I think it's fair to put some blame on Brady. But to me, the coaching was really, really bad in this one, and it's been a theme now that the coaching has struggled for 6 weeks now. I think that we still yet to see things work out really the way we want to, and it makes you wonder. How good is this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team? Because if they can't figure this out, it felt like the division was just a guaranteed win. And I don't know, it still might be, but as of right now, like, the Falcons and Buccaneers have the same record. The Saints are, right behind us at 2-4. So, like, division is not a guarantee by any means at this point. The best thing going for the Buccaneers is how weak the NFC looks. That's pretty much it. It's just been a frustrating game. one of the more frustrating games as a Buccaneers fan I've seen. Again, getting down 8, finding a way to score a touchdown at the end, but not getting a 2-point conversion. Maybe we have to work on 2-point conversions. Those short yardage plays, that just, if you can't run it, it really kind of just makes it tough. They got to figure out a way to do that. Maybe make a trade and get an interior offensive lineman. I wouldn't hate that idea because this is kind of your all-in year, and 3-3, losing to an injured Steelers. Because again, if the Steelers are healthy, I'm not as frustrated about it because the Steelers do have talent on their team. But with how injured they were, I mean, this should have been a blowout, and a loss is just that's not what championship teams do. That's not what championship teams do. Right now, this is not a championship team, but maybe they can turn it into one. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching. I forgot I have to manually turn it off. So now, okay, now thanks for watching.